Welcome to Geppetto's Creature Shop. My name is Jamie. This is my first actual project on the channel, and this is inspired by Nick over at CC Minis. He had taken one of his son's preschool toys and also a toy he had gotten over at the Goodwill, I believe, and took them all apart and made them into two pretty cool orc steamships. And I found this iron here at a flea market, and I thought it would make a really cool ship. Flipped over here, already has a boat shape, and I didn't think it had enough with it to make it its own piece. I haven't broke it open yet, but inside I didn't think there was going to be enough in there, so I found this choo-choo train, and right away I could see I wanted to use the steam stack there, and also probably the cow guard. What do they call that thing? The cow shield. And both of these pieces, well, the steam iron did work. That was more mechanical. The train did run on batteries. I tried to test it out. It did not work. It may have been a simple fix, but regardless, I got both of these pieces for $10 total. And I thought this was a cool piece here that kind of resembled a gear, so may use those in the project. But I figured with both of these together, we could break them down and come up with something pretty cool along the lines of an orc ship. I gotta tell you, if you can't tell from the video, this little iron was such a pain to open. It had these little bolts on it, and I did not have my socket set with me. So you can see me struggling pretty mightily with this little stupid iron. I didn't want to break too much of it, because that's not the name of the game, but in the end, I kind of just had to use some brute strength, and what I ended up doing was just drilling out holes near the bolts and just kind of ripping it open at that point.
One eternity later.
Alright, so I needed some kind of cabin, so I grabbed the battery box off the train and I knew I wanted to elevate the steam tower, or the exhaust, I should say. And needed a front, obviously, because the battery box had no front or back. And this piece came off of the train as well. I don't remember what piece it is, but I thought it would make a cool, like, kind of battlement front. So needed to trim that a little bit here. So we went ahead and cut a very crooked line, if I do say so. But that's what files and sandpaper are for. And you'll notice on the back as well, I used the battery cover to make kind of a hatch on the back.
The next day.
And here we are the next day. I took a break for the night and called it a day. And now we're back at it on the workbench. And I wanted to take off that cow catcher, as it's called, as I remembered. And I wanted to use that as kind of a battlement for the front of the ship. Thinking kind of like a battering ram, if you will. So went ahead and got to drilling that out. And I do a lot of shaping off camera. I will also admit that I am not the best at recording every single step, as I just kind of get involved with building, and I do like to leave some stuff to the imagination as well. I don't like to show every single portion of my build as I build. There is a lot of trial and error with this type of build, as you can imagine, and to make a video of all that, these videos would be probably an hour plus long each time. So I do try to explain everything that I use. If I do not show a piece, I will try to explain what I've done off camera, so that way there you can still be informed and maybe learn something that I might not have shown on camera. I do my best to show the most, but again, I know not everybody has the time to watch 45-minute to an hour videos. So you'll see as the build goes along, you might see some added details, kind of like that wiring that goes through the steam stack. That is actually one of the axle wires. It's actually a piece of metal, it's not really a wire. One of the axles from the train wheels. What I actually did was just bend it on my vise, and then I just bent it back and forth till it broke, and then I put some bends in it, kind of just to add a little bit of visual detail to that steam stack. And then I took the wires from the motor on the choo-choo train and used those as guide wires for the top. And here we have a couple of the wheels from the steam iron, and I thought they would make cool shields for the front. As you can see here, I have a box of the Citadel skulls, so I went through those and I picked out a couple of orc skulls that I liked, figuring I would adorn the front of these wheels with the orc skulls, kind of make them part of the front of the ship as well, kind of to instill some fear into whoever is sailing by or whoever is on land watching this orc ship approach. Very simple, just kind of glued them on, as you can see here. I did scuff up the middle. The middle had kind of like a little bit of a point to them where they held into the axles, so I just ground that down, threw on some glue, and glued the skull to that. And then they kind of had already a built-in little piece on the back side that fit pretty well on the front of the ship. These kind of were a little tough to glue on for some reason. I don't know why. You'll see later in the video the right front one fell off when I was trying to mount the cannon that I made. But with some extra glue and some extra baking soda, I got it to stay on, and it is fully secured at this point. This plastic, if you try this plastic does need some scuffing up. I probably should have sanded the deck of the ship before trying to glue these. I kind of just stuck those on and slathered the glue on and went it that way. But it all worked out in the end. They are stuck on there. Here I am doing the cannon, because of course you can't have an orc ship without a cannon. So grabbed a couple of parts from again, the train really offered the most parts, obviously, for this build. But of course, without the iron, we'd have no boat. So what I like about these builds is not everything has to be functional. Coming from a die-cast background, well, die-cast most recently, everything kind of has to be perfect. I did a lot of Gaslands builds, which I'll probably upload in a video at some point. And I like doing those because, again, those didn't have to be perfect or functional or make sense because they are fantasy. But even those, you kind of still had to have some realism. With this stuff, it's a lot of fantasy. And I know there are some rules to stick by, as far as lore and everything. Admittedly, I am not a tabletop gamer, but I am pretty versed in Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that from being a nerd. So anyway, I wanted to affix this cannon to the front of the ship. And here I am just drilling the hole for that. And this is where you'll also notice that the front right shield kind of falls off, despite it being heavily glued with baking soda. So I just drilled a little hole because it was the hole at the bottom of that bottom gear, and I thought it'd make a nice mounting bracket. And there you go with the right side shield falling off. But everything is glued back and nice and tight, so no harm, no foul there. So about this time, OSHA stepped in and stated even though they're orcs, they do need some kind of safety on the back part of the ship. So I grabbed these little pegs that were on the train as well, and decided to make a type of railing. So what I did was just cut them in half and trimmed the top and also flattened the bottom pieces, and grabbed the pin vise and went ahead and drilled out holes through them so that I could run some wire through. I did majority of this off camera, only because it would have been too lengthy to record and bore you guys with. So you do see me here painstakingly pin vise drilling some holes in these little pegs. Kind of a pain in the butt, to be honest with you. I did want to throw it in the Dremel, but I pressed on and did it by hand, and they weren't that horrible. But had I have to do it again, I will definitely do it in the Dremel. And here's where we have them. It's all done, and I wanted to make a little wooden hatch for the back part here. It is not going to be functional, just something visual, but the lines in the battery cover that I used prevented it from sitting flush. So of course we gotta sand down that little section that I marked there. So just grabbed my small little Harbor Freight Dremel, rotary tool I should say, and this is a great little tool. It's not very powerful at all. In fact, it cuts out more than it should, I guess, on jobs. But for light sanding and stuff like that, works great. And it's like, I think less than $30 at Harbor Freight. But sands down those little ridges there just to get that little hatch to sit flat. They do have to have some way to access the bottom of the ship, obviously. And just made that little wooden hatch out of some styrene and some balsa wood. Just cut some lines in it and just threw some pieces of styrene on it. Of course, that'll get all painted up in the final paint session. But here I am just test fitting it and making sure that it'll sit nice and flat, as it does. And then we move on to the next section. So any good ship is going to need some flags, and what I normally do when I make flags, I'd grab some lightweight styrene, cut a couple long triangle or pennant shapes, and then I fold them, as you can see here, onto themselves. Give it a good press down, and then unfold them, and then you get that nice kind of wavy look. And then you can grab some sandpaper on it if you want and weather it down, or make some cuts in it. And then what I do with these is I just grab some styrene rod and make some poles for it. Here's the portion of the build I thought I would hate, but it was actually quite relaxing. Can't have an orc steamship without rivets. I had bought those rhinestones you see down there for my die-cast days, for mostly like headlights and such. So I went ahead and bedazzled the hell out of this thing I couldn't count the rivets, but I hope in the future I'm going to install like a rivet counter to keep count of how many rivets I actually use, are actually rhinestones. But I like the way it came out, and you'll see once the primer hits it how good they look.